Però ce n'è di lavoro, scusa, non lo so, però l'idea di farlo mi piaceva perché ho detto un po' meno limitativo della guida, è comunque una cosa che ho sempre voluto fare. Alla fine mi costa 100, sì, no, devi pagare 100 euro per i contributi per gli esami e la macchina da bollo da, quanto è? 16. Ah, grazie. 14 euro ci dico già.
Spiegate che non c'eri ieri,
Sì.
per ragione di microfono qua, principalmente l'opzione serve tanto, non tanto qua in sala, ma anche in videoconferenza dall'altra parte. Quindi l'importante è parlare quando metti qua vicino, parlare più vicino a questo piuttosto che questo. Cioè, deve essere acceso anche questo, perché c'è magari una persona o due che si hanno le cuffiette. Però il microfono che anche se ci parli da qua non ha problemi. Questo qua è meglio parlarci vicino. Che è la cosa fondamentale per mandarlo
ok. Ma questo è sempre acceso?
Sì, quando iniziamo lo accendo io
e poi rimane sempre acceso? Quindi
sì.
un po' come i divi del cinema.
Non si sente, però.
No, vabbè, però poi magari alle volte uno poi parla un po' così all'interno e... Ok, buona sapersi.
No.
Tanto vedrò da lei. Ok, piuttosto che all'altro.
L'altro che si parlate lontano, basta che sia acceso, prende senza problemi.
Perfetto, grazie. E quindi non si può fare gossip quando c'è tipo... Sì, esatto. Esatto. Allora, vediamo. E tra l'altro mi sono stampata questa qua perché visto che oggi potrebbero parlare delle malattie, siccome ci sono questi costi esterni, non le tirerà fuori mai tutte queste cose. Sì, perché i costi, da come ho capito io concettualmente nel senso, diciamo, il significato di questi costi esterni include praticamente gli effetti, diciamo, collaterali del, della situazione, della gestione attuale. Quindi tipo, ma no, ma infatti ti dico, non lo so, siccome c'era nella tesi, era una pagina della tesi di quel cristiano, ho detto io nel dubbio, perché io non le so, magari tu le conosci anche, io non me le ricordo neanche, poi sono quasi uguali al latino, mi sembra. Ho detto se per caso le sentiamo. Ah, però io non ci sto. No, se no ne apriamo solo uno. Tanto io al massimo mi serve giusto se voglio succedere. Cos'è? Questo cassino qua. Ok, grazie mille. No, grosso. Ah, tu, è questo che dico. Secondo me anche. Niente, ti dico, adesso c'è un po' cosa qua perché ho detto, tanto sono a casa, studiare bene, e visto che è uscito sto bando che adesso hanno deciso di fare un accompagnatore, infatti l'hanno scorso a guida, ho detto quasi quasi. Ripeto, l'unica cosa è un po' di questo costo, nel senso che uno dice lo fai per trovarlo, perché comunque per dire nel mio caso mi interessa provarlo, però poi se non lo faccio, ma non comunque si sta assolutamente. No, più che altro sono materie, quelle, diciamo, tolta la geografia, però quella, la parte di normative, quelle cose lì, perché ovviamente non esiste. Sì, no, esatto, ma non esiste una bibliografia. O meglio, la regione Liguria non lo fornisce. Su internet poi qualcosa trovi chiaramente. Infatti avevo già comprato un cazzo. Ne ho vista, non andiamo in direttissima. Ah, ecco, brava, perché mi sono dimenticata di stamparlo. Ah, io ce l'ho. Dove l'ho messo?
Vediamo se riesco a farlo seduta. Ah, ok. No, credevo te. Devi fare lo strano. Sono 200 slide. E tu? Ok, mettiamo la presentazione. È un Word, quindi conviene chiudere la finestra di...
Va bene, proviamo a cominciare. Buongiorno a tutti.
Good morning to everyone.
E buongiorno agli...
Good morning to our Spanish friends that are attending this session in video conferencing. Yesterday's session was very fruitful and demanding. You may have experienced other training, vocational training, or other kind of courses, but during yesterday's session, you have listened to many debates and themes and issues. We dealt with the interaction between port and town, sustainable development, reduction of emissions from ships, reduction of nitrogen oxides, of other pollutants, use of liquefied natural gas, and we also discussed cold ironing. A number of speeches have then tackled a number of issues that are going to be later discussed and debated during the week. Today, we are going to focus on a number of specific issues. Now, what I want to do is to put what we learned yesterday and what we're going to learn today into perspective, and to include these issues and themes into the European legal framework. This is the program that we developed for this week. There are four main typologies of speeches and debates. First of all, the operations and actions that are carried out at port level, then the legal framework, then the supporting technologies that are linked to the issues that we are debating, for example, transport issues, or those technologies to reduce polluting emissions. And then we are going to deal with a number of different issues related to, for example, the Trans-European network, the transport system. All these speeches and all these researches are focused on maritime transport. Today's program will focus on a number of issues. First of all, smart city and intelligent port, that is idea, what it means. Then, well, the idea of smart cities and intelligent ports is, let's say, included or integrated into the idea of sustainable development. And then within sustainable development, we find sustainable mobility and sustainable maritime transport and as far as these processes are concerned, we need to focus also on the external costs of transport, which are figures that can be used to quantify and assess these systems and infrastructures. So, smart cities and intelligent ports. What are smart cities? A number of definitions have been given. I am referring to the information that you may find on the internet, and my definitions are based on what the European Union or Eurostat have already stated. So if you want to start looking for this idea on the internet, just look onto the European website. As for smart cities, I think that this is one of the best definitions. I found these definitions developed by a study of many European research centers. A smart city, well, you've got to take into consideration 6 elements: smart mobility, smart environment, smart people, smart governance, and smart economy. These research centers developed a specific study and identified a number of indicators related to these 6 areas. And on the basis of these areas, they classified the different towns based on the number of inhabitants, from 100,000 to 600,000 inhabitants, and they also took into consideration the presence of universities. What I want to do here is to say that when we refer to smart cities, all these elements must be taken into consideration. Smart environment. Well, we've got to develop smart mobility in order to achieve a smart environment. And in order to develop smart mobility, you've got to have a smart people. I mean, if culture is not changed at the at the level of society, then smart people cannot be, let's say, cannot be born, let's say. As a way of example, if I develop the waste collection according to the differentiated types of waste, if I don't, if people living in that town do not follow the rules of this kind of waste collection, because they do not really understand it, they do not feel it right to do it, well, I can develop this system, but if people do not believe that this kind of waste collection is useful, then the system won't be successful. Then there are other elements that are very important. Smart mobility, what is it? It doesn't only mean mobility technologies, for example, electric cars or other systems. What we need is smart governance if we want to implement smart mobility. That is the ability of implementing smart mobility at the urban level on the long and medium term. So if mobility has to be smart, and has to be based on subways networks or on bus networks, then I need to work to implement and develop these ideas over the years. So I cannot just build a tramway line. I spent, I don't know, 100 million euros, and then the political governance, the political government changes, and then they change the attitude to the smart mobility. So we've got to be consistent, and this is also then linked to a good and positive use of our resources. So if you want to be smart, we've got to take into consideration the aspects that are integrated into one another. So this is changing the culture of a people, of a town, that involves government and the political authorities. So we've got to really work on this. Then there are here a number of indicators that the research centers used for the classification. If you want to have a look at the website, you can find the website address at the top of the page. Then, if we connect smart cities and intelligent ports, well, what I mean is that smart cities must interact with intelligent ports and with port activities. An intelligent port is a port where the activities have a lesser impact on the town. So we've got to reduce the volume of transport by road, and we have to find a new means of transport, namely railway transport. And then we've got to reduce the emissions generated by the ports activities and by ports in general. And namely polluting emissions, for example, when ships are making berth at ports, then polluting emissions must be decreased. The European Union says that 70% of European people live in towns. The urbanization process has been increasing in the last decades. So what we need to do is to develop at the urban level an urban context that may help to increase the quality of life and a better use of the resources that we use to live in our towns. Smart cities mean also sustainable economy and economic development. You can read here the reference to an opinion of the Commission related to Smart Cities and Communities European Innovation Partnership. So this document was published in July 2012, and it is a good starting point. This document states that smart cities and communities, this partnership intended for European innovation and for smart cities and communities takes into consideration three areas, which are energy, urban energy production and use, urban transport and mobility, urban information and communication technology. It is ICT supporting the good and correct use of energy and a good planning for mobility at the urban level. And so what we need to do is to make these different aspects overlap to achieve a smarter society and smarter cities. This is a simplification of the smart concept that we just mentioned. However, this is useful to better understand the number of reference points that we've got to use as our starting point. As you can see here, there are a number of internet websites. This is the internet website of the DG Energy of the European Commission. Here the website deals with cities and communities. The European Union and the European Commission has been encouraging a number of initiatives and supporting a number of initiatives, namely the creation of a platform to be used by the stakeholders that are interested and working on smart cities. If within Horizon 2020, that is the next European framework related on research and innovation, we have to publish a number of calls for interest in order to collect projects to turn our cities into smarter cities. Then we've got to take into consideration proposals coming from the cities themselves, but also from stakeholders. When I am referring to Horizon 2020 and the European framework, do you know what I'm talking about? Horizon 2020 is the 8th research framework program of the European Union, and each framework program sets its goals and the organization of research at the European level. So, thanks to the framework programs, the European Union publishes calls for interest for research on specific issues, and these calls are getting proposals and projects from the various stakeholders at the European level. What we are dealing with here is a module on smart cities, but also on intelligent ports and on the interaction between ports and town. What I'd like to mention here again, and my reference point is again a document published by the European Commission. What I want to mention is that even at the European level, as far as ports are concerned, the interaction between cities and ports is taken into consideration. If you are interested, you may go and read the document of the European Commission on the website, and many aspects are dealt with in these documents, but there are a number of aspects that are related to the interactions between the ports and cities in this document. And they are also linked to what has been said yesterday. There are mainly three points. First of all, the development of existing resources, and the first paragraph 2.1, what the paragraph says is that if it is possible, the port area to be moved from the areas close to the city, and the port area are to be given to the city and be used by the city. In Genoa, this is not possible. The expo area was given back to the town, but it is the only area that was used like that. And then it also says that the air quality ought to be improved. Here, the paragraph is referring to air emissions. We have to focus on polluting emissions when you have when you refer to quality air quality. However, in this paragraph, they refer to CO2 and the emissions of CO2, which is not strictly speaking polluting emission, but it is a GHG emission. And then what is needed is to develop a structured dialogue between town and port. This is what the president of the Port Authority of Livorno, Mr. Gallanti, was saying yesterday. Ports, it said, must not be separated, must not be isolated if compared to the town, but they must live with the town, and people are to be, let's say, invited and have to be involved into the life of ports. So people are to understand the value of their port for the town and for the economy of the town. So the ideas that have been debated here yesterday have already been inserted in this document of the European Commission. If you got any question, or if you didn't understand anything, just tell me. So, smart cities and intelligent ports. We have explained what this means. So let's take these two concepts and let's put them into the sustainable development concept. So sustainable development and sustainability are not new concepts. They are not new concepts. There are many definitions. One of the definitions is the definitions expressed in the Brundtland report. She was the Norwegian Prime Minister. She worked with the UN and published this report in 1987, and the sustainable development was explained as the development, the needs of the present without compromising the ability of future generations to meet their own needs. This definition can be found everywhere on the net and in the books. Well, this definition was opposed because it is centered on human beings, let's say. I mean, human needs are put at the center of this idea, whereas if you take into consideration sustainable development, what you have to take into consideration are the needs of all living beings, plants and animals must be included then. And criticism was made to this definition, because some say that sustainable development cannot exist. The very idea of sustainable development is not possible. So the theory of stopping growth, I mean, a growth in reverse, has been developed. And these diagrams show that sustainable development is connected to the social, environmental, and economic developments. So, in addition to these three developments, social, environmental, and economic development, one more pillar was accepted, that is the protection of cultural diversities that do exist on the planet. Cultures are very different, so sustainable development are to protect these differences and diversities. So you've got to protect the diversities of species, but also the diversities of cultures. The concept of sustainable development is not a new one. I am just showing you a book now, sorry. This book was published by MIT researchers. I am going to read what has been written on the back. There are limits to development that must be transformed into global balance and equilibrium, and in order to redirect development, we've got to start thinking at the global level and on the long term. This is the essential meaning of the reports that are published in this book. And these reports are the development of other reports that were published in the past and were again focused on development. If you have a look at this book and you look at the printing year, the year of this book, this book was printed in 1973. So in 40 years, we have not really implemented these ideas, because 40 years ago, many researchers have already understood and organized the concepts that we are debating here today. These MIT reports and books were due to results of the research that were commissioned by the Rome Club, which was an agency, an institute founded in 1968. It is an international organization, and its aim is to tackle a number of problems, and problems that have to be faced at the global level. One of these first problems was the use of resources. So So in the 60s, there were people that already were taking care and were studying these ideas, these aspects and problems. So smart cities must not only be implemented and developed through new technologies, but also through new cultures, because if the way of thinking of cities is not changed, technology may also be up to date, but problems cannot be solved adequately. As regards sustainable development, the European Union published a number of documents. This is another communication from the European Union and the European Commission. This communication deals with sustainable development and how to integrate sustainable development into EU policies. Sustainable development is one of the most important pillars of the treaty that governs the European Union. Is one of the fundamental concepts. The concepts that are underlined in this communication are climate change and clean energy, sustainable transport, which is inextricably linked to sustainable development, sustainable consumption and production, conservation and management of natural resources, public health, social inclusion, global poverty, and so on and so forth. So, smart cities and intelligent ports, again, is an issue that encompasses the first 5 points on 7 of the 7 points that are listed in this communication. In addition to what has been written in this communication, the European Commission tries and assess the policies and especially the sustainable policies can be developed. I mean, it tries to understand if the sustainable policies are successful or not. If you're interested, then you can read the Eurostat report. It is an institute that deals with statistics. In Italy, we've got ISTAT, and at the European level, the institute dealing with statistics is Eurostat. Common models are used to collect and interpret the data coming from all European member states. This is a survey developed by Eurostat on sustainable development in the European Union. This document says that Eurostat cannot really define, cannot really state if our development is a real sustainable development or not. It is not possible to say it, because the idea of sustainable development is not accepted and agreed upon by everyone. So Eurostat says that sustainable development cannot be clearly defined, but Eurostat states that thanks to the analysis of 100 indicators, say, it is possible to assess the situation and the conditions, and the Eurostat can state if the conditions are improving or not.
So just to give you an idea, here you find some indicators, and these indicators are within main indicators actually, and they are part of some subjects that Eurostat defined as significant to understand if we are developing in a sustainable way. So we have the socioeconomic development, the social inclusion, demographic changes, public health, climate change, sustainable transport, natural resources. So we have to ask ourselves if we are protecting them or not. And also here we have this important indicator, which is good governance. So with respect to these subjects, there are some headline indicators. So in terms of socioeconomic development, you have, for instance, the GDP per capita, the real GDP per capita. We talk about sustainable transport, for instance. So if we talk about sustainable transport, we have as the headline indicator the energy consumption of transport. So besides the assessment of the situation, let's say that, however, you have these let's say images that represent the results that have been found. So let's say that there are some positive aspects. So where you find sun, that means that we are positive in a certain sense, that our development is sustainable in a certain sense. So where you find cloud together with sun, there's let's say a situation of improvement, but we have to work hard. But as you can see, there are also some clouds, only clouds, or that represents that the situation is not so good. So it's rather bad, actually. So we have to improve. So, and especially here you can have a look at the energy consumption of transport. And here you have other indicators, of course, linked to transport and referred to transport and sustainable transport. And here you find this modal split of freight transport and modal split of passenger transport. So what's the meaning of these two concepts? So let's say that we have to deal with mobility of people and freight being much more sustainable, so introducing sustainable ways of doing this. So we will see later on what does it mean, but generally speaking, let's say that we should move from road transport to other modes of transport, in especially railway transports and shipping. Then you see also volume of freight transport relative to GDP, and there's a sun over there. So the volume of transport related to, as we said, GDP. So if you give a look to statistics, past statistics, the development of GDP in different countries and within Europe corresponds to a development and increase of transport volume, traffic volumes, both for freight and passengers. So let's say that what we have to do and what the European community is trying to do is the so-called decoupling. So a sort of split, a sort of separation between the development in terms of economy, so this economic development, and the increase in terms of mobility and transport. So from freight point of view, freight transport point of view, let's say that we succeeded, but in terms of passenger and transport, we have to work harder in order to reach our goal, our aim. So there's an increase in terms of mobility needs, also in terms of business voyages and business transfers, but there's also an increase in terms of, let's say, leisure voyages needs. So in the past, for instance, let's say that people used to move just to closer cities or closer towns, but nowadays we usually think about taking flights or however moving abroad, going abroad. So let's say that from an environmental point of view, of course, the situation is different. So this being said, just to refer again to European community activities, here you can find another communication issued in 2009 dealing with sustainable development, and especially with reference to transport. So let's say that the idea is, the title of this communication is towards an integrated technology-led and user-friendly system. Of course, there are a lot of pages that form this communication, but I would like to focus on some on the objectives that are essential in order to realize this sustainable development in the transport country. So we're talking about sustainable transport in the end. So let's say that we have to deal with safety and security. We're talking about quality in terms of transport. So a well-maintained, fully integrated network, more environmentally sustainable transport, keeping the EU at the forefront of transport services and technologies. And this is a very important point, actually. There are some countries that are strong in terms of economics and development, and some countries have developed important technologies, and I have to say that besides this, Europe is a leader area in terms of technologies within the domain of mobility. Eurostat says that we are the leader area in terms of issuing of patents within the sector of mobility. So protecting and developing the human capital, smart prices as traffic signals, that means that we have to use in an intelligent way the tariff policy to manage mobility and to rule mobility actually. And then planning with an eye to transport. That means improving accessibility. So the idea is just to focus exactly on this accessibility. And this is an old challenge actually. And this is a challenge that the European Union is dealing with since the past. So I don't know if you noticed that I want to focus especially on a European, let's say, view. So we are living a period of crisis, of strong crisis here in Europe, in Italy and in Europe. And the idea is that a lot of people have is that we should leave the European Union. Of course, I don't want to deal with this subject from a political point of view, but what I would like to point out is that besides all the disadvantages or pitfalls represented by the European policies, we have as competitors North America, China, South America, Africa also maybe in the future, because a lot of countries are developing in a strong way in Africa. And of course, it's not possible for us as a country without a huge amount of resources to be able to compete with this kind of countries unless we are not part of the European Union. So, for instance, so that means that we are not able to compete with other countries alone. So we have to stay within the European Union. We have to work together with the European Union. So we have to be part of European projects in order to survive, in order to be competitive. And of course, we are dealing with a European view, and we have to follow this view. And of course, we can interact with the European Union and we can suggest improvements and so on. But of course, we have to stay within the European Union. Otherwise, we will not be able to survive and to compete with the rest of the world. So here you find out, for instance, the website of the Directorate General. And Mr. Anselmo, as part of the Directorate General of European Mobility, spoke about this yesterday, and here you find out all documents within this website. So, just to sum up, we dealt with the definition of smart cities and smart port within a concept of sustainable development. Then we dealt with sustainable transport, and last but not least, we have to say that besides all these concepts, we need some indicators in order to measure actually the situation, to understand if in terms of planning, in terms of policies, we are behaving in a good way. So many economists are here. So, of course, what is important now is the cost-benefit analysis. So the idea is just to understand if our investments are done in a good way, and of course, while we are investing, we need also to let's say, assess the results of these investments. So at this time, we have just few resources. Let's take, for example, a city that can have 100,000 million to be invested of euros, of course, to be invested within the mobility context. So the city can decide, for instance, to invest this money on, let's say, underground systems or railway systems. So the idea is just to realize and analyze this in order to understand which is the best, let's say, income after this the investment has been done. So in terms of indicators, let's say that the mobility impact on society, and in order to understand the results after the investment, it is possible to use this external cost. So in terms of definition, I would say that everybody agrees with it. It is fine and it is easy to find out the meaning. External costs are costs related to mobility, of course, but they affect the society itself and not the single user. So, for example, if I use my own car, I, of course, let's say, have some costs related to this use in terms of pollution, in terms of fuel, but let's say that in the end, I don't have a real cost in terms of impact on the entire society, in terms of pollution, for instance. So which are the main categories of these external costs? Accidents, air pollution, environmental pollution, and especially air pollution, climate change, noise congestion, so noise and congestion, of course, and then there are also other external costs. So it is difficult to measure actually the external costs. And I have to say that a lot of studies have been carried out in the past in order to find out an answer to this question. But what's the meaning of this? So how it is possible to assess this, to measure this external cost? So let's take an example. While talking about CO2, we talk about a greenhouse gas, and as a fact, it makes an increasing of the temperature. So, with reference to mobility, if I produce a ton of CO2, in order to measure, to evaluate this external cost, I should understand, from a money point of view, how much this CO2 influences this increase of temperature, and in especially which are the, in terms of money, the negative effect of this within let's say, the society and Earth, of course. So, of course, this is an art duty. So, this evaluation is not easy. There are different models that can be used. Of course, this is the same problem in terms of also considering also other external costs such as air pollution, for instance, where it is important to understand which are the impact on health, and so the situation is really complex. But I would like to say that, however, the studies that have been carried out present some similar results in terms of how to measure these external costs. So we are not so far from a good solution of this problem. So question now. Do you have any idea about, let's say, how much the external cost can be at a European level within a year? Let's try to guess. Just give some numbers. No idea? Okay. So we're talking about 500 billion euros per year. In Italy, we represent something like 50 billion euro per year. So it is difficult to realize, to see, actually, to touch these external costs, but in the end, it's something that we have to face too. As we said, it is difficult to understand, to measure, to value these external costs, but they have impacts, of course. A few years ago, there was an horrible accident within the Mont Blanc tunnel, and a lot of newspaper reported that information. A lot of people died, and all newspaper and media and press, generally speaking, all around Europe, dealt with this piece of news. And of course, one of the consequences was, let's say, the issue of a new EU regulation in terms of improvement for this kind of tunnels. And so, as we said, a lot of people died. People were shocked because of the fact of this proof, of this evidence. But let's say that the same amount of dead people represents the amount of people that die every weekend because of road accidents, car accidents. So the problem is that in the end, if you have similar events, but let's say focused in a different way, that happens in a different way, so one is a sort of tragedy, the other one is split all around the year, we have a different approach to them, even if the results in the end is the same. So, let's say that, for instance, if you are a politician and you present a policy that is split, however, in different years, in order to reduce, for instance, some cost of the state, let's say that no one is going to vote in just because of the fact that there's no immediate impact of his action and immediate result, of course. So, we're talking about external costs. Most of them are related to road transport, 93% at the European level. So, let's say that we have to work hard in order to change this datum. And so we have to find out a sort of balance among different transport modes.
Air transport has a huge impact as far as GHG are concerned, and then this graph shows the total external costs of each member country of the EU. Italy is here, and Spain is here. Here, this is Spain. However, these are the total costs. This is Germany. So the most peopled country and the, let's say, most developed country will have to face higher external costs. However, these external costs must be calculated per capita. Here, things are different because I divide the total external costs per 50 million people in Italy, so costs are lower, and Luxembourg is shows the higher costs per capita. So costs are to be subdivided according to passengers, number of passengers, kilometers, and tons transported per kilometer, and not by per capita as a rule. And then next slide. This is an analysis of external costs of transportation in Italy developed by the Association Amici della Terra and the Italian Railway Company. This is a report dating back to 2005. And well, the figures are more or less the same. At that time, 40 billion euros per year were calculated as external costs for mobility in Italy. Half of it was due to congestion. And then accidents was 12%, was the figure related to accidents was 12%, noise and then other kind of atmosphere pollution had lower percentages. Do you know how many people die because of accidents in road accidents in Italy and Europe every year? Do you know? Well, things have improved if compared to the past. So in the last 10 years, the number of deaths decreased by 10% because of a number of reasons. First of all, culture, changing culture, safer roads and cars. So one of the latest Eurostat data says 32,000 death in on the roads in Europe in general, and 100 million wounded people a year. And now I am referring to small towns. This is one of the reasons why the European Union 10 years ago, thanks to the white paper on transport, which was mentioned yesterday by Mr. Anselmo, decided to reduce the death and wounded people due to road transport on the roads in Europe by half in 10 years, as I said. In the past, there was 1 million 1 million wounded people that were wounded during road accidents, and then well, it means that one citizen out of 3 was wounded during their lifetime. So this is a way of telling people to be very careful with their own when using the car. So if I have to measure the sustainability, I need indicators. And I need indicators with maritime transport as well. Mr. Ballini will tell you about emissions of maritime transport and solutions. As for maritime transport, let's say that the impact of this kind of transport is lower than other means and systems of transport. The inland waterways have been taken into consideration, and the impact has been taken into consideration in the past, and they have been analyzed, and the impact has been analyzed, which is lower than the impact of other means of transport. And studies have been carried out to assess the impact of ships when make berth at quay in ports. So if I've got a cruise ship carrying 3,000 passengers, well, last night an MSC cruise ship was approaching the port of Genoa. So do you know how much energy does the ship need when it is at quay? It is making berth at quay, because you've got to take into consideration the fact that there are restaurants, there's heating, lighting, and so on and so forth. So this kind of ship uses 10 megawatt, 10 kilowatt per passenger. This is the energy consumption of an average household, and this kind of energy must be produced. So this is what we already said yesterday, and what Mr. Ballini will say after me. I mean, I need energy through cold ironing coming from land, or I need some other form of energy source. So if I keep my engines running, I may cause problems if I am calling at a port that is close to town. This is a study developed a few years ago on external costs of transportation. As far as emissions are concerned, this is the port of Venice, and emissions are divided according to the type of vessel. Or what is important is looking at these numbers, these figures, table 50. I mean, over a year, if you use the extern e-cafe models, we've got 20-25 million euros per year of external costs. This is just the Port of Venice. If you look at the other figures, costs amount to 10 million euros. So what do we have to do? We have to really improve the interactions between town and ports, and there are many possibilities and many solutions to be implemented as far as sustainability is concerned. And now, a very short break, 5 minutes break.
Sì, la domanda è appunto,
My question
crede
is,
che
do you think that
un'introduzione di una
the application of the implementation of a kind of carbon tax that allows that may tax external costs may be helpful to change, I mean, to develop the sustainable development in a better way? Well, the idea of a carbon tax, has been debated. Actually, I do not know. I mean, we need, in order to understand this, we have to talk to ship owners to ask them what they think about this. As a general rule, we are dealing with maritime transport here. I mean, what you mean is carbon tax applied to maritime transport, motorways over the sea, shipping lines, and so on and so forth. I mean, this carbon tax out to be used to foster sustainable development in the maritime transport. Mr. Ballini will explain you many things on this concept. But these external costs, I mean, if you've got someone a tourist, and these tourists decide to go on a cruise, and how much is he going to pay to cover these external costs? Just a few euros. So it's not really it's not a huge, very high sum. I mean, it's not, it's just a few euros that has to be paid in addition to the price of the cruise, which is maybe 700, 1,000 euro. However, there are different ways of recovering this money, these external costs. However, in order to really understand the situation, we need to talk to, again, ship owners, stakeholders working in the maritime sector. What we need is a legal, maybe framework on a larger scale, and a legal framework that is accepted by everyone. If you want to reduce ship emissions, we can use the new technologies. We can use cold ironing. Engines are shut off, and the ship is connected to the LED grid, and it's 10 megawatt, means 10 million euro per ship. From the cruise sector point of view, this could be a solution, a positive solution, since scrubbers are not really widely used, and maybe in Italy we're not ready to have LNG cruise ships. Maybe we can use LNG with carriers. If I am the Costa company or the MSC company, and I do organize cruises in the Mediterranean area, I need the European ports to be equipped with, for example, cold ironing, because it's completely useless for me as a ship owner to retrofit my ships, but I can use these new technologies only when I call at specific ports. So in 10 years' time, what do we have to develop? Do we want to develop cold ironing? Yes, okay, then we've got to do this on a larger scale. In 20 or 30 years, what do we choose? LNG, okay, fine, but again, it must be on a larger scale. And then after this, we can decide to implement new taxes. So the idea is let's choose the most important and most widely accepted innovative technologies, and then we can decide to implement maybe new taxes. And this is what already happened in many countries of Northern Europe, of Northern European countries. So we need to make political choices on the basis of current technologies, and we need to prepare a new innovative and alternative technologies. Before we need to develop them, we need to use them, we need to offer new and innovative and alternative technologies before then applying new taxes, like the carbon tax, for example. And I think that everyone has got a different opinion on this on the basis of their experience. What I think it is important is to implement medium and long-term policies